Well, g'day everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I am making a scout carry sheath for a knife that I had built a while back. This one's going to be out of Kydex. Now we're just going to start by measuring everything up and cutting the Kydex. Nice simple process. Just use a Stanley knife, box cutter, something like that for it. Once we've got it scored, we just lean over the edge and snap it. Bend it back and it should snap off completely. And then we're just going to use the same process to cut it for length. Scoring with a knife. Bend over the edge, snap it down. There we go, cut the shape. Okay, next up we're going to cover one side of the blade with 2 layers of tape. This just allows it to be free of the blade in the Kydex. We want the grip of the Kydex to be on the handle, not so much the blade. We want the blade to move freely, otherwise it's just going to scratch up too much. So as you can see, 2 layers of Kydex, 2 layers of tape down, and then we'll just use a knife and trim it off. Nice and neat, ready to go. Okay, our Kydex has been sitting in a 180 degrees Celsius, 360 degree Fahrenheit oven, just till it gets nice and soft and floppy. Now I was going through a lot of thought process in how to do this. This is the first one in this style that I've made. So I was moving it backwards and forwards a fair bit, just trying to work out exactly how I wanted everything to go. A little bit of jiggling around. Clamp it all down tight in the press. And from there we'll just let it cool. Okay, clamps off. And there it is, magnificent. Now what I am going to do at this basic stage is just draw it in and out and make sure that that basic holding works, that the knife will go in and out. Sometimes when you get recurves and that sort of things, they do not go in too easily. Okay, for this one I'm using a DLC combat loop from Knife Kits USA. Not sponsored, I wish it was. But it seemed to be the cheapest sort of Kydex loop I could find that's going to do the job properly. For $10.49 American, they are a pretty nice little system. So just going to mark the holes in. And I want to get it up near the handle because that's the balance point of the knife. And then we're just going to mark some additional holes just to match it all up. And mark in a rough idea of the shape. That'll get adjusted on the saw on the belt grinder later. I'm also going to take some out of that underside here, which is back to front to the way I normally make Kydex sheaths, but because this blade is back to front or upside down, I want to make it so I can finger grip it a little bit better. Across the drill press, you can just drill out our holes with our rivet drill. Then across across the bandsaw and just rough everything into the shape that I'm after. As I said, I cleaned it up on the belt grinder. Okay, using a nice coarse grip belt, we're just going to get it down to the profile that we're after, reshape everything, and have it looking pretty. The good thing about working Kydex is you can go straight from that coarse to a fine grip. Up here it's up at a 400, and again, just smoothing the edges off, trying to bring it back to that pretty look. And lastly, I finish on the grinder on a 600 grit cork belt, and that gives me a polished edge. My usual cleanup with a sharpened end of a hacksaw blade. You can use deburring tools. You can get countersink bits and all that sort of good gear, but I find just that sharpened edge of the hacksaw blade works perfectly for me. And just pushing through my piece of rag with the hacksaw blade, and then I can just use it as a pull through just to clean up the inside. Make sure I get as much as possible of the dust out from the inside of the sheath, which is really hard to show on camera. But there it is. And now that everything's cleaned up, I'm just going to put all the rivets in so we can hold it all together. And they also give us our mounting point for the clip. And lastly, we come to attaching the belt loop, which is really easy. Just put the nut section through. It gets a little standoff washer on top of that, and then the screw down through the hole in the clip. Tighten that down. You don't want it too tight to start with because we've still got to put the second attachment in there. So again, our nut in from behind. Trickier here because we've got to squeeze the standoff washer in from the side. Just play around with the screwdriver just to push it into place. And in we go with the screw. And it's actually that simple to mount the belt loop. And the question is, how does it work? And as you can see, draws fantastically. Just need to be a little bit careful putting the blade back in. That can be the hard part on scout carry. Alright, thank you very much everyone for watching, and bye for now.